Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another update on my teaching system because seeing as this is my first full year teaching, there are definitely things that I set up that didn't work the way that I wanted them to, or that I needed to tweak, and what have you. So I thought I would go ahead and show you guys we're right around week 20 of the school year, which is almost 2/3 of the way through, and I thought that would be a good time to show you the way that the system has been working for me lately. So I actually have a couple of different elements that I'm going to show you. If you remember from my first video, I had this one black binder that I was using, and I had all of my classes in there along with some other information that I needed and what have you. That has definitely changed. I've also changed how I'm doing my grading. So let's go ahead and get started. You'll see here I've got my teacher bujo, which I am still using. I also have what we call a carnet de bord, which is basically like a grade book. And you'll notice that I actually found one that is about A5 size, and I thought that that was really nice because I'm already carrying a pretty big binder with my teacher bujo. I didn't want to have another huge one on top of that. And then finally, well, almost finally, I have a smaller binder. I think this is probably like an inch binder, whatever. I'm not sure how they measure them here, but it's about an inch binder, maybe even a ½ inch. I honestly have no idea, but basically a small binder, as well as this gigantic one. I can't even quite fit it all in there. You see it's like 3 inches or so. So I thought I would go ahead. I've picked one of my grade levels that I'm going to show you just so you can kind of see how the system works. And yeah, hopefully it will make sense to you guys. So let's move this stuff out of the way. So first up is my teacher bullet journal, and in here you will see that I still have my dashboard. I am not really using it the way that I had planned, but it is nice having these sticky notes in here, so I'm just kind of leaving it. So this really hasn't changed. Ditto my calendar. I'm just kind of checking things off as I go, and I keep it paper clipped so that I'm on my current month. So you'll see that my calendar is pretty messy. I'm trying to cover anything that might be kind of pertinent. I tend to not put any really specific information in here just because I tend to know what's going on and just, you know, for privacy reasons and all that kind of stuff. But you'll see I just kind of throw in notes on my monthly level just so that I don't forget stuff. I've got stuff basically up through the end of the school year in black pen, and then anything that has to do with my actual classes is in the color code for that particular class. I have my curriculum planning. You'll see I definitely need to update here, but I have been doing pretty well keeping up to date with it. This is working as a record of what I've done rather than as a projection of what I plan to do. So I have my color code down here for each of my levels. So each level has a section followed by different colors. I tend to keep them in the roughly green, blue, and like red range. I know that normally my 8th graders are purple, but I started out with like a pink, and so I just kind of ran with it. And this just gives me an idea to see how fast I go through different units for each grade level, and also how far off I am between grade levels. For example, am I, on the same number unit? For example, if I'm on unit 3 in one class, am I on unit 3 or am I on unit 4 or unit 2? How is that how is that playing out during the school year? So I am using this. I'm hoping that this will give me some good data at the end of the school year for planning for future years. I also have a discipline record. So this is basically where I note down if I give some kind of if there's some kind of disciplinary action related to my classes. So I have it per class, and then I just write down the date and the kid's name, and then what actually happened. For example, did they get an observation in their notebook? Did they get detention? What have you? So you'll see I still have a lot of place down here. I try not to give too many disciplinary actions like that. I try to see if there's a different way that we can resolve it in class, but sometimes it happens, and so I like to have a record of it just because otherwise it's in the kids' agendas and I might not necessarily see it again. So this way I can see if there's patterns. If I have one kid who's always getting in trouble, for example, I can try and figure out, okay, well, why is that happening? And this just gives me a little bit more information just for my own personal records and for sort of the smooth running of the class, if you will. Next up, I have my weeklies, and you'll see I just basically did a clip on here so that I could quickly flip to my current weekly, and it's pretty standard. I'm actually, at this point, we are week 19. Yes, we are at week 19, and this was the first weekly that I actually hand drew. You'll notice the wobblier lines. this setup has been working really well. I like having this notes page over here still. You will notice that I am no longer doing washi tape. I'm actually just using a Tombow to do a thick line of color basically. So I do my same separation of the page. I'm just not doing it with washi tape because honestly this is just faster. And yeah, this actually is the one thing in here that has, well, this and the monthlies are the two things that have really just stayed as they were. I set them up and they are working well for me, and so I'm kind of trucking along, keeping with this particular system. So not much to note there. You will see that I am not as ahead as I should be. I need to draw up a couple of weeklies so that I can plan a little bit more ahead. It's just been kind of a hectic couple of weeks. So that will take me all the way through the end here. So if you guys remember, my last section in the back was my grade book for all of my levels. So I have attendance, homework, grades, and then attendance too. And this is one of the things that has definitely changed. This particular system was getting a little bit unwieldy because I had to keep printing out new spreadsheets and gluing them in every time I ran out. And I was actually just getting to the point where I was kind of running out of room near the back here. I had like a page or so left, and I just wasn't sure that I was going to be able to fit the entire school year in here. Plus, I don't know, it was just kind of a little bit more hassle than it was worth. I don't mind doing things like, you know, my weeklies and that kind of stuff because I find that particular setup very useful. However, for something like a grade book, honestly, the grade book that you can buy is just as effective and in some ways more so. So I grabbed a little A4, or not an A4, an A5 size grade book because I wanted to have something small, like I said. And I went ahead, I'm not sure how easily you'll be able to see this, but I actually washi taped the edge of each section. So I've got teal, blue, and purple for each of my classes. So I maintain the color code even in here. And then what I did is for each class, I went ahead and I wrote in the names, but I only had to write in the names one time because this has the tear off section here where I can just tear off one side and flip it over and the names match up. So the way that I did it is I went through the rest of the weeks that were in the school year, and I counted out how many, if I did 1 day per line. So that gives me, for example, in this level, I have them 4 hours a week, which means I need to have 2 full, like 4 boxes across. I just counted across and made sure that I had enough for the end of the school year. So for them, I have a lot of classes, so I had to give 3 full pages. And then I went in, I had homework, grades, and a second one for grades just in case. And I also include, for example, on my attendance, I also will include if they're absent, there's a little A. If they've forgotten their notebook, there's an NB. If they've forgotten their agenda, it's a C. And then if I have no absences, I actually have an extra line down here where I just do a little 0. And that way I don't have to fill in all of the kids. I just have to fill in the ones where there's something to say. So that one saves me a ton of time. It's much easier to read. This has been working pretty well. So I think I will probably end up keeping this system for a while. And then let's see if there's anything. So yes, for homework, I have the same system that I was doing before where if they didn't do it, it's a dash. If they did half of it, it's 1 line. With this one, I didn't go in and fill in any of the X's because all the rest of them did it. But on some of my other classes, if it's a little iffier, sometimes like if I'm checking it in class and I don't want to forget, I will go ahead and do the full X's if they did do the homework. And then the last one I have are for grades. This was one I did when I first started using this. I've since made it so that I actually use the entire, like between the 2 bold lines, I use 2 boxes for 1 grade just because it's easier when I have decimals and that kind of stuff. It's just easier to see. I also have over here, these are sticky notes that have any bonus points that they earn. So as they earn them, I write them down here. As they use them, I can cross them off. And that just keeps it, you know, I don't want to have it mixed in with other grades because, for example, it's something that they can use for the trimester. And I want to be able to just, you know, have them get used up and then check the little Post-it note. So this has been working really well. I have enough for all 3 of my classes. I don't know how this is going to change in the future when I have more classes. I might need to have multiple books. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But honestly, this made a lot of sense. And I was originally going to do it at the beginning of the school year. And I thought, no, I'm going to try and do everything Bujo style, like do it all by hand. And honestly, there was really no point to it. This just saves me so much time. I get to write the kids' names in once and then I'm done. So definitely was a smart choice to switch over to this, even if it was halfway through the school year. So next, I'm going to show you how I organize by grade. So this is my 6th graders, so everything for them is teal. And what I've done is I've gotten a binder for each level that's in their color, and I've also gotten a gigantic binder in each color as well. So the current unit that I'm working on goes in here, and you guys will see Thursday was a bit hectic, so a lot of times what happens is this. I basically have pulled things out of the sleeve protectors, all of my like random little notes and that kind of stuff. Some stuff is handwritten. I do have tabs. So I have a tab for the current unit, which obviously this is not actually accurate because this was the last current unit that I was working on. Oops. So I do have little tabs and I just stick papers in here. So I will, by the time I finish the unit, go back through and organize. But for now, it's just kind of a mess because they actually have a test on Monday, which is back here. So I just haven't gotten around to organizing it, but I thought I would show you guys that that's kind of how the mess happens. And then I also have another tab here that just has my class list, which I won't move just because it's got the kids' faces and names and stuff. But I do have a tab on there just for my own reference. I don't really need to look at it because I know all their names and whatnot, but I have it on there. So I have the 2 tabs, one for the current lesson, one for the class list. So once I actually finish a unit, and I'm ready to move on to the next one, what I do is I transfer everything over here. So what I've got is, I got 3 different binders, so one for each level, and then I got 3 different sets of tabs. So I have 12 tabs per binder. And what I do is each tab goes to a sequence. So all of my notes, all of my originals, so that when I go back through and I want to do copies again, I just have them all in here, ready to go. I have a feeling that over the summer I'm probably going to need to reorganize a little bit just to make it a little bit clearer, and you'll notice some of my notes are not as full as they should be. But this way I don't have to carry it to school with me because it gets kind of heavy, but I do have a record of it, and I do have my notes somewhere in a semi-organized fashion, and you'll see, whoops, I have all the way up through here. So anything that I do with them, I just transfer it over here. And so actually, you guys will probably have figured out by now, I go through protector sheets like nobody's business. I imagine any teacher who has a system similar to this will, there's just no way around it. And so what I do is basically I just transfer out all of the protector sheets from the binder for the unit I was working on, and I just put in a new set of blank ones for the next one, and I just fill them up as I go and then transfer them. And this system has been working pretty well. Obviously, there are times when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed and I don't quite finish going through everything and updating everything, but at least I've got it somewhere. I'm not, I don't have just like this one massive pile of papers that aren't sorted at all. I do keep it so that when I have my lesson plan, so for example, I have a lesson plan for each class. It can be somewhat detailed and not very, but I have the lesson plan, and then I have for example, any worksheets that I gave out. So I have the original in there so that if I wanted to do this lesson again, and I, for example, had all new kids and I didn't have to worry about repeating stuff, then I could just grab it out of here and do it again. At least that's the way that I'm thinking it might work. Obviously, it's going to be hard to tell until I actually start the next school year and see what materials I can reuse. And there are certain things that I use between grade levels as well. And so that I have to figure out, do I make, 2 originals and keep one in each? Or do I save the paper and just have one original? It's one of those things, like this side of the organization is definitely a work in progress. But I have to say that using the combination of a traditional grade book for things like grading and grades and attendance and all that kind of stuff, plus my bullet journal for planning, has been working out really well. And I have a feeling that this is something that I will continue to use in the future. There might come a point when I don't want to actually hand draw any of my weekly spreads just for time constraints, but at least for now, I like having the flexibility to set this up exactly how I want. For example, I only worked 3 days a week. So there was no way I was going to be able to buy a teacher planner that only had a 3-day week. So that was why for this year, at least, this worked out really well. However, I honestly can't really invent anything that's better than a traditional grade book. And so there's really no point in me trying to. I did for a while, but there really is no point in me trying to. So this one, I'm definitely really happy with the decision to move over into here. And yeah, that is the update. I wanted to try and keep it a little bit shorter this time because you guys have all of the other 2 videos, and I will do cards up in the top over here like throughout this video, so that if you want to check out my first video, the update, and also the what's in my teacher bag video, I will include those so that you can just click on them and go check out those older videos. But at least here you guys know what changes I've made to my system since the beginning of the school year and since partway through, and also how things are kind of working for now. So if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know down in the comments section, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.